Okay, guys. So I hope you guys at home have your STAAR test or open it up in Google Classroom. No, you don't throw them away. Where, Jacob? Uh, okay. So I'm showing we left off on 26. Does that make sense? Did we go over 26? Does anybody know? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll start at the top and then we'll say, yeah, we did it or yeah, we didn't. Okay. So the first one, the most missed question. Okay. 26 was the last one?
Yeah.
Okay. So the most missed question was number 19, which was about absolute value. Okay. So I'll just go over it real quick, just as a reminder. Okay. So where's 19? So 19, what page is 19 on? Page 18 on page 19, right? It says there are 4 points. Which point represents the value of the absolute value of -1/2, right? And the absolute value of -1/2 is a positive 1/2. So then you just look at your number line, you find the appropriate point, right? That was the most missed question. Okay? So just remember, if you see absolute value, it's a positive number. Okay? And absolute value just represents the distance from 0. And distance is always positive, right? You can't have a negative distance. I mean, yes, you could back up with a car, but you're talking about a number line. Okay, so that's 19. The next missed question was 23. 23 was on 23 is on page 21. No, 23 is on page 20, right? And here we have an expression, y plus 9 times 3/4. It says find an equivalent expression, right? And all they did was rewrite the fraction as 3 divided by 4, right? And then they took the y and put it on the other side. So the commutative property, right? You can add it. You can add 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can add 4, 3, 2, 1. It all comes the same thing. It's commutative. You can move those things around. That's what they were testing there. So that's 23. 18.
Yeah, she's just dying.
18.
No, she was literally dying when everybody was quiet for a second.
Okay, so number 18, it was about the guinea pig food, right? And if you look at, and then you had to find the number line that represented the chart, the data in the chart. And if you notice, everything's in percents. So you had to convert your chart to a percent. And just always remember, percent is part over whole, right? So you have to know your total number, and then you find what part that is and convert that to a percent. Okay. Okay. So that was, what was that? That was 20. Was that 26? A lot of pages. 17, 18. Oh, that was number 18. Yeah, 18. Okay, now 26, which I think is the last one we did before class was over. 26. Yeah, 26 is on page 21. And this is where we're talking about the properties of a triangle, right? And you have to remember this little, you have these 3 inequalities, and they have to, each one of these has to be true for you to be able to create a triangle, right? A plus B is greater than C, A plus C is greater than B, and C plus D is greater than A. Okay? So if you meet all 3 of those inequalities, you can make a triangle. If even one of them doesn't work, you don't have a triangle. And the question started by you measuring this line. And also remember, you have a ruler in your reference materials. So if you get a question like that, you just take that page, rip it out, and use it. You also have centimeters on the other page, the other side of the page. So don't forget you have that there. You have all your conversions in your reference tables, okay? Okay. So that was 26. So the next one, which I believe we did not get to, was 28. 26. 27. This is 28. Yeah, 28. So did we get to this one? Where the oatmeal and the... Okay, so this is the same kind of a thing, right? They're trying to find percent. Here, I just want to get my notes to make sure I don't leave something out. Okay, so it says, what did it say? Each child in a group was asked to choose a single favorite type of cereal. The table shows the number of children who chose each type of cereal as a favorite, right? So you have oatmeal, you have grits, you have wheat porridge. I can't even imagine what that tastes like. Cold cereal and other. It says, which statement is not? This is the tricky part of this question. It is not supported by the data. Okay? So if you start looking at your questions, it says, now they're talking about percent. So we're going to have to convert these all to percents, right? So if you remember, it's part over whole. This is page number 23. So percent is equal to the part over the whole. Okay, so we're going to have to add these all up to get a total. Right? So 15 plus 10 is 25. 25 plus 2 is 27. Plus 20 is 47. Plus 3 is 50. So our total for the whole group is 50. Now we're going to convert these to percents. Okay, and I'm going to do this one a little bit different. So I've got 50. I'm going to put 15 over 50, right? I've created this relationship, right? But I want to make it a percent. Well, that means I need to find an equivalent fraction with 100 as the denominator, right? Because then I can easily convert it to a percent. So 50 times what number gives me 100? It's 2, right? 50 times 2 is 100. So to keep this relationship, right, the same, I have to multiply whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I'm going to take 15 times 2, and 15 times 2 is 30. Now I have 30 over 100, which is equivalent to 30%. Okay, let's do the next one. We've got 10 over 50, right? I need to create another equivalent fraction with 100 in the bottom. 50 times 2 is 100. 10 times 2 would give me 20. So this is equivalent to 20%. And then I have 2, so I'm going to put 2 over 50, equivalent fraction, oops, of 100 in the denominator. So 50 times 2 gives me 100. 2 times 2, so this is equivalent to 4%. And then I have 20, so 20 over 50. I want an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, so 50 times 2 gives me 100. 20 times 2 gives me 40. So that's 40%. And now I have 3 over 50. So 3 over 50, equivalent fraction of 100 in the bottom. 50 times 2 is 100. 3 times 2 is 6. So this is 6%. Okay. So now that I have my percentages, I'm going to look at these statements and find the one that is not supported by data. So you're like thinking backwards. It's not like you're trying to find the right answer. You're trying to find the wrong answer, right? So F says more than 5% of the children chose other as a favorite type of cereal. So here's other. It's 6%. More than 50. So this is true, right? This is supported by the data. It was more than 5%, but that's not my answer. That's what I'm not looking for, right? Because that is supported. I want to find something that's not supported. So G says oatmeal is favorite type of cereal for 15% of the children. So we look at oatmeal, right? And that doesn't match up. So I think this is my answer, but let's check, right? Cold cereal is associated with the mode for the favorite type of cereal. Do you remember what mode is? Mode is the most frequent number you see in your data set. So let's go look at cold cereal. Cold cereal, now my percentage is actually 40%. So that is a true statement, right? That is supported, yes. Sure. But that's not what I want. I want to find the statement that's not supported. So then it says grits is the favorite type of cereal for 20% of the children. And it is 20%. So that is supported. So the answer that is not supported by the data is G. That's a tricky one. If you first have to convert it to percent, then you have to read your statements and compare it to your data. Okay, so that was 28. Okay, let's go to 16. 16, 7, 8, 9, 16, 16. 16 is on page 16. That's easy. Okay, so it says 4 points are labeled on the number line. Which point best represents 1/3? Well, I want you to notice something. You have a number line with 0, and your endpoint is 0.5, which is 0.50. So we're talking about a decimal. And they said, which point best represents 1/3, which is a fraction. So let's convert this to a decimal, right? And you do that by dividing the numerator by the denominator. So if I take 3, 3 doesn't go into 1, so I have to add a 0. Right? 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. I have a remainder of 1. Bring down another 0. And guess what? That goes on forever. So 1/3 is equivalent to 0.33 as a decimal. So let's figure out what these spacings are. How many different sections do I have on my number line? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So what is the value of each one of these little spaces right here? Well, if I take 0.50 and I divide it by 10, I get 0.05. I get 5/100. Well, let's see if that works. So if this is 0.5, this would be 0.10. This would be 0.15. This would be 0.20, 0.25, 0.30, 0.35, 0.40, 0.45, and 0.50. Okay. So I've just found, I know what my spacing is, and I know the value for each one of these little hash marks. Okay. But I need to find the point that is closest to 0.33. So this line is 0.33. This point is 0.30. This point is 0.35. So it has to be M. So it's H. Okay. So that's 16. Okay, now let's go find 6. You think 6 is on page 6? Let's find out. What? No, it's not on page 6. Page 11. Yep. So number 6, here we are, number 6 on page 11. Okay, and the question is, which inequality is true if P is equal to 3.4? So an inequality is any expression that has one of these 4 symbols. It has greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than and equal to. If you have one of those 4, this is an inequality. Okay, so we want to find out which of these statements is true. So we have to substitute 3.4 and then put it into the inequality. So here it's 3p. So I'm going to take 3.4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry 1. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. I have 1 place value, I have to move over my decimal point, so it's 10.2. So this is 10.2 is less than 10.2. Is that true? Is 10.2 less than 10.2? No, it's not. It's wrong. It's equal to, but it's not less than. So that's not a true inequality. Let's look at the next one. We have 13.6 is less than or equal to 3.9p. So we're going to take 3.9 times 3.4. So 4 times 9 is 36, right? Carry the 3. 4 times 3 is 12, 13, 14, 15. Now 9 times 3 is 27. I move over 1. There's the 7. Carry the 2. 3 times 3 is 9, 10, 11. Right? Then I add. Here's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Put down the 2. Carry the 1. That's 3. That's 1. And I have 2 decimal places. So I have to take my decimal point. 1, 2. I have 13.26. So 13.6 is less than or equal to 13.26. Is that a true inequality? No, 13.6 is greater than. So guess what? That's not right. So now I have 5p is greater than 17.1. So I'm going to take 3.4 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 5 times 3 is 15, 16, 17. And I have 1 decimal place. So move it over at 17. So I have 17.0 is greater than 17.1. Is that true? No, 17.1 is greater. So that's not right. So just by default, you found that it's J, but let's try. So here's 2.5 times 3.4. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 4, 20. Yeah, I move over 1. That's 15. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry 1. 3 times 2 is 6. That's 7. 0, 5, 8. And I have 2 decimal places. So 1, 2. It's 8.5. So I have 8.5 is greater than or equal to 8.5. That works, right? So your answer is J. Okay. That's 6. Let's go look at 14. 14. Okay, 14. The dimensions of a lawn shaped like a trapezoid, clue, are given in meters. What is the area of the square in meters? Okay, so go back to your reference page, and it has your formulas for area, for volume, and then on the other page you have your conversions. Okay, so the formula for the area of a trapezoid is area is equal to half base 1 plus base 2 times h. So let's write that on this side. So we have area is equal to 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times h. Okay? So you can use either one of these. So let's just call this base 1. Let's call this base 2. And this right here is your height. So let's just plug our numbers in. So we have area is equal to 1/2 base 1, which is 18, plus 12 times 4. Okay, well, we have to do the parentheses first, right? PEMDAS? You're looking at your paper, right, Jacob? Jacob, you're looking at your paper, right? Really? Okay. Okay, so let's put those two together. So area is equal to 1/2, 18 plus 12, 8, 9, 10, 0. That's 30. So I have 30 times 4. Okay, this is just the way I was taught. So you just do one thing and then you rewrite the line and you do another one. So area is equal to 1/2. 30 times 4 is 120. So now I have 1/2 of 120. Well, half of 120 is 60. So it's 60, and I'm talking about meters, and I'm talking about area, so I'm talking squared. So it's 60 meters squared. Do I have that answer? Yep, it's G. Okay, they just gave you the formula, and you had to do is go find it. You don't even have to memorize it. Okay, that's 14. 13. Okay, right above it. We don't even have to go anywhere. Okay, so 13 says the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls in a choir is 5 to 4. There are 60 girls in the choir. How many boys do you have? Okay, so a ratio is a relationship, right? There we go. I just want to make sure I don't miss something. Okay, so if your ratio is 5 boys to 4 girls, right? I want to find an equivalent fraction that has 60 down here, because this is girls, right? This is boys, this is girls. So I have a ratio of 5 to 4. I want to find a new ratio or equivalent fraction of boys to girls where there's 60 girls, right? So just like that, yeah. So just like that other problem, right? 4 times what number gives me 60?
15.
Yep, very good. Or you could have divided it. You could have taken 60 divided by 4 and you found it that way. So it's 15. So 4 times 15 gives me 60. So to keep this same relationship going, I'm going to take 5 times 15, right? And 5 times 15 is 75, right? So my answer is there's 75 boys to 60 girls, right? So that's my answer. I want to show you another way to do it, and you'll probably learn how to do this next year when you do algebra, but it's called cross multiply. So you take 5 over 4 is equal to x over 60. And what you do is you cross multiply. So 5 times 60 is 300 is equal to 4x. I want to solve for x, okay? So I'm going to divide this by 4. When I divide by 4, these 4's fall out. I have x by itself, but I have to do the same thing to the other side to keep my equal sign. And 4 goes into 300 75 times. Just another way to do it. Okay. It's a little simpler, but you're doing the same thing. There's more than one way to do a problem. Okay, so that was 13. Let's go to 20. Okay, here's 20. Okay. This is a table. The table shows the relationship between R and S, where S is the independent variable. So this is the independent variable. This is the thing that's going to change. Okay. This is the dependent variable. This is what's dependent on that. This is tricky because if you notice, right, you have 1 and you have 1/6, right? And if you did 2, that really is 2/6. But guess what they did is they simplified it. So so here, see, here's 2/6. That's 2 times 1, and that's 2 times 3. See, and so they simplified it to 1/3. That's how they were confusing you in this table. This really should be like this. Okay. If you had seen this, you would have gotten it right. But what they did is they took the fraction and simplified it and make it a little more difficult for you. Okay, so it says which equation represents the relationship between R and S, right? So every time you go up, right, is 1/6 and 1/6. So 2 times 1/6 would give you 2/6, right? So here you just have to, and what's tricky, what you need to look at is sometimes you can throw stuff out. And these two right here, what I noticed was they're using subtraction. There's no subtraction in this. You can throw these two out right away. That has nothing, there's no adding or subtracting or anything. This is multiplication. This is a multiplicative relationship. So it says S is equal to 1/6 of R. Well, we're going the wrong way because this is the independent variable. So this one's not right. So this is your correct answer. R is equal to 1/6 times S. Okay, this is kind of a trick. This is a tricky one. That was not an easy one. Okay, 27. 26, 27, that's on page 22. Okay, page 22. Yeah, we'll finish. Okay, 22. Okay, so it says the owner of a food cart sells an average of 120 frozen treats per day during the summer. Which graph best shows the relationship between the number of days and the number of frozen treats sold? Okay, so just off to the side, you go, well, if he worked one day, that's 120. Second day, that would be 240. The third day, that would be 360, and so on and so on. So now we have to look at the graphs, right? We have to figure out which graph best represents that data. Okay, so let's look at the first one, right? It says number of treats sold. And look at what numbers they have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That doesn't make any sense. He sold 120 the first day, right? So you can throw this out. They labeled it wrong. They should have put the number of days here and the treats. The labels are wrong. So number of days should have been over here and the number of treats over there, but they didn't do that. That's what's wrong with this. Let's look at this one. It's basically the same thing. It's still reversed. The data is different. See how the data is different? But these labels are still wrong. And if you look at your data, look, one day is less than 100. You have to do 120 the first day. So the data is wrong. But it's also labeled wrong. Okay? It's labeled wrong. And the same thing here, it's labeled wrong. So this, you can throw that out. So half your options, you've eliminated 2 of them. So you're down to these 2. So now let's look at it. So this is right. The number of days, this makes sense. And the number of treats, that makes sense. Okay. Now let's look at the data. Okay. So we know the first day he did 120. So here's day 1. Here's 100. It's a bit over 20. This looks good, right? And the second day, a little over 240. That looks good. Well, let's look at the next one. Labeled right. That looks good. Let's look at the data. 1, and it's less than 100. 2, and it's barely over 100. So guess what? The data is wrong on this one. This can't be it. So your answer is B. Okay. So that was 27, right? 25. Go back a page maybe. Yep. Okay. So top of the page at 21, we have number 25. The list shows the numbers of employees in the 9 departments at a company. What is the range of the numbers of employees in these departments? So range, when you're talking about data, range is the largest number minus the smallest number. You're trying to find the space. You're trying to find so right here, your biggest number is over here, and your small. You want to know what this space is right here. You want to know what that range is, right? So what's our biggest number? Our biggest number is 54, and what's our smallest number?
3.
It's 3. So 54 minus 3 is 51. So your range is 51. Okay, that was 25. 22, go back a page. That's 23. One more page. 22. Okay, I was really surprised there's so many people got this wrong. Because this is somewhat straightforward. It's not tricky. I didn't think the wording was all that off. Okay. So it says the weight of one serving of trail mix is 2.5 ounces. How many servings, right here, serving is two, Jacob. The serving is 2.5 ounces. How many servings is there in 22.5 ounces of trail mix? Right? So this is your total, and you want to know how many of these you can get out of that, right? So it's basically 22.5. You put that in the doghouse and you divide by 2.5. Okay? But if you remember, we don't like dividing by a decimal. It's kind of hard. So I'm going to move my decimal point over, make this a whole number, and whatever I do to the outside, I have to do to the inside. So I'm going to move this over. So I'm going to rewrite it. So now my new problem is 25 divided in the 225. Okay? 25 can't go into 22. You go into 225, and it turns out it goes in evenly at 9. Okay? You got 9 left over. So the answer was 9. Okay? I was kind of surprised about that one. Okay? So that's the 13 most missed questions on this test. Okay? If you got all those 13, you would pass in a heartbeat. Okay? These tests, they do not recreate a test every year. They recycle many of these questions. Okay? I'm not saying you're going to see the exact question. They may have the same question, but maybe different numbers. Okay? But I would highly recommend you just go over this and look at it. You know, make sure what your thought process is on it. Because then on Tuesday, it should be really straightforward for you. Okay? And you might even see 1 or 2 questions that are exactly the same. I've kind of looked at these over the years, and I do kind of see things repeating. Okay? Probably the more difficult ones are the ones where you have to read and analyze the data. Okay? There's probably for sure going to be some percent ones. There is definitely going to be a question. I think it's been on every STAAR test I've ever seen. Is the second one. Integers, whole numbers, right? Make sure you know that. There is definitely going to be one question on that. It's probably that exact same question, probably. So make sure you know that. Let me see if there's something else. Here, where you're substituting something, there's definitely going to be one on PEMDAS, so you make sure you understand PEMDAS, right? Exponents, I know a lot of you got caught up with this. This is not 5 times 2. This is not 5 times 2. This is 5 times 5. It's your base number times your exponent. Okay? When you get questions like this, putting them in order, you want to put them in the same form. Okay, see how they're mixing fractions with decimals? Either go all fractions or go all decimals. I think decimals are much easier because when you get into really small numbers, it'll help you isolate the correct answer. Okay, ratios is probably something for sure you're going to see. I'm sure they're going to pull a formula off the formula page. They might ask you for the area of a triangle, which is on your sheet. Area of a rectangle. This is reading number lines. It's percents again. That's absolute value. This was volume. I don't think very many people had trouble with that. I was happy with that. Okay, what's next? This is just watching your properties and understanding how you can move numbers around. They might ask you your mean, median, and mode. So make sure you understand that. Properties of a triangle. That's percent again. That's area. Plotting points. I think you guys did okay with that. And then this is a check register. Just remember that withdrawal means you're subtracting it from your account, and a deposit you're adding to your account. Okay. So guys, you have stuff in Google Classroom for tomorrow. Please look over this. It will help you. Okay? Okay, get plenty of sleep. Eat a good breakfast.
You're lying to the whole class. I am? Yes.